Well, end of day 2 at the Paris Olympics, and we're going to talk about the big story in a second. I'm with two-time Olympian and world champion swimmer James Magnussen. Maggie, let's start on a positive note because big story developing. But Jess Fox did it again, four-time world champion, four-time Olympian, and got it again today, second gold medal.
Got it again, this time in the K1. Got the C1 back in Tokyo. 4th Olympics, first athlete in Australian history to get 4 medals in the same event at 4 consecutive Olympic Games.
At the end of the semis, ranked 8th, Missile, and mate, found a way to win. One thing about her, like you speak to people, is mental toughness. And as you know, you can have speed, you can have power, but the most crucial thing in sport is mental toughness.
Watching that this afternoon, it looked like a particularly hard course as well. Brutal. Like one little mistake and it was blowing out their time by 5 seconds. And we saw that mistake from her in the semi-final. So the mental dexterity to jump back up in the final, then to be in pole position, and of all the ways to win it, she worked for it.
Well, Missile, let's go to our man, Crash Craddock and Matt Cunningham.
Crash, what do you make of that?
One of the great pressure performances we've seen in Australia Olympics this century, I thought. I mean, you think of it, you know, the French heritage, the fact that this race had been very cruel to her, the pressure, she didn't have a great semi-final, and you're a pinball in that water. You know, you're in a tumble dryer. You know, it's not like a cricketer who can put bat close to pad. You're at the whims of the elements. Fabulous.
I spoke to you briefly after the semi. You seemed confident, even though she'd finished, I think she was 8th fastest qualifier, you still were confident that she was going to win this one. I mean, why was that?
In the hope that it was the shocker she had to have. Not a shocker, but just a little bit off. So great athletes like that, when they have that performance like Nadal or a Federer, they then go back and take stock and they're better for it. And that was the hope. But it was pressure. I mean, and her time was not damn-bustingly good, so she was vulnerable. There would be days when other performers might have just slipped past her, and that's why she had so much anguish when she was sitting in the seat, because she knew that it wasn't flawless in terms of a great run, but the time was not sensational, so it was gettable. But that will be the greatest day of her life, I'd say, until she wins a second one.
Well, she's won the C1 before in Tokyo, but I mean, do you think, was this the one that she really wanted?
I think so, because it was just, you know, this particular one had been tough to her, you know, a couple of sort of minor medals, and it's just the first of her 3 medals. And Richard Fox, her father, who's such a beautiful stabilising force in her life, has this thing where if you get high, they sort of bring you quietly back. If you're low, they take you up. They said, don't stay with the moment for long. So she'll go home tonight and she'll, you know, celebrate quietly, then recalibrate, do her meditation and her hydration, a great professional, and come back, you know, for her second and third. But I think this opens the way for her to have a damn-busting Olympics, because she's up, she's on fire. If she had been beaten in that, the pressure would have been enormous. But now she's playing with the casino's chips, if you know what I mean.
Well, you talk about that pressure. My heart was racing. How do you think she was feeling as she had to watch the field go through?
Well, she's very cool and very relaxed, and that's why it was so fascinating to watch her going, sucking in the big ones. And as I said, she just knew that she was on solid ground, but she wasn't sitting on Mount Everest knowing that no one's going to come near her. I mean, that was fabulous, you know. And I just thought, you know, watching it live, Matt, you really get an appreciation for what a difficult, fickle, challenging, unpredictable sport it is. You know, it's not a perfect sport like tennis where you can aim for that corner and hit it. Sometimes Mother Nature just gets you and slam dunks you. It didn't get her today, and I just think, you know, she's one of the highest profile athletes now in Australia. And who would have thought that 20 years ago? If you'd have said a whitewater athlete will have that status. I mean, it's quite incredible.
Well, she's certainly much loved. I think everyone's on Team Fox here tonight. It was great to see as well the French getting behind her with that French background as well. We've spoken to a few of the spectators coming out, and you really heard the roar of the crowd for the French competitor, but also for Jess in that last run.
You did. And her story's been very well publicised over here. You know, spent her first 3 years in Marseille and loved roaming in the parklands there on the beach. And they had a house between the city and the beach. And the kids, their love of France is so intrinsic, they've come back most years I mean, that's about 20 years. And they come back nearly every year to be with their grandma. She cooks them cookies and all the little things she loves about France. So it's a unique story, the likes of which we've never seen before, Matt, and I'm not sure we'll ever see it again.
It was a great moment indeed. Thanks so much, Cratch, for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Wade, to be here.
Right, Missile, one of the biggest developing stories. Now, mate, you spoke about it last night. You wrote about it. We're seeing athletes starting to leave the village.
Evacuate the dance floor. Yeah, so the American tennis team has all left the village. They're fed up with the facilities. We may see this continue to develop. We saw again tonight, got great results in the pool, but as far as times goes, they're well off those world marks. And again, I don't think it's a slow pool, sleeping on cardboard beds. I showed you before the footage of what the mattresses are.
Honestly.
Best described, I guess, as styrofoam.
It's honestly, Missile, and honestly, sometimes I think to myself that, like modern day athletes, sometimes I think they can be pampered.
Yeah.
But this, I look at this, and it is ridiculous. You know, the Olympics and people have trained so hard for 4 years. They turn up here, and they're sleeping on cardboard beds.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous.
I spoke last night, I guess, I joked last night about the amount of vegan options in the village that they're running out of meat. Well, Australian heavyweight boxer has come out. He wanted lamb chops. Maximum 2 chops per person. Guy's 6'6", be 110 at the best. 2 chops.
Well, Missile, he's come here as a heavyweight. He'll go home as a middleweight. Like, honestly, it's
different, isn't it? It's
and
different.
Tilly Kearns, she posted and showed the beds and how ridiculous it was.
My line today, Matty, that will be in the paper is you're trying to get the perfect result in the most imperfect environment. And it really is, at the end of the day, who can overcome these setbacks, who can put these distractions aside, and when they get on the blocks, instead of thinking about excuses or reasoning as to why they're not going to break a record or why they're not going to win gold, can focus back in on the job at hand. That's why, again, when we're seeing girls like Jess Fox, Ariane, our women's 4x1, it's all the more impressive given the circumstances that are surrounding it.
200 semi tonight. Ariane beat Molly.
Yes.
Give me your thoughts.
Interesting race. So those two will go in as the 1 and 2 ranked swimmers into this final. They'll go in as ranked the 1 and 2 fastest women in history in this event. And they'll go into this final as teammates, countrymen, but squad mates with the same coach who'll be in the same lane for the warm-up. Dean needs to turn to Molly and say, here's your game plan tonight to beat Ariane. And then he needs to turn to Ariane and say, Ariane, here's your game plan to beat Molly. I'm not sure how it works. It's never happened in my career, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Who's
his favourite? I don't know. Surely he can't have a favourite, but yeah.
Well, they say you can't have a favourite son. Well, I do.
Shout out to you, Jack Johns. But a fascinating match race again tonight. Ariane takes it out hard. Molly finishes really fast, which, again, that must be the game plan, which is very interesting because Ariane's coming from the 400 down to the 200, so she naturally doesn't have as much speed as Molly. So you'd expect her to finish fast. It's the exact opposite. Molly's coming from the 100 up. She's going out slow, letting Ariane lead it, and then coming back at her the last 50. So, again, it comes back to game plans, what the coach is saying to the swimmers before they go out and race.
It's really interesting. We saw Ariane in the 400 qualify preserving energy. You know, coming second, people going, oh, what's going on here? But really smart tactic, preserve it for the final. This one, she wins. Is she trying to leave a battle scar on Molly?
I think so. She definitely pushed a little bit harder to get to the finish tonight, to be in lane 4 for that final of the 200 freestyle. We saw in the 400, she's used to being in lane 4. She accidentally put all of her kit in Katie Ledecky's lane 4 lane, so she likes lane 4. But I was a little bit surprised. I thought, again, she might let Molly go and go in second to the final, but that's strike number 1 for Ariane. But the ultimate race tomorrow night.
Give me the tail of the tape, though.
Tail of the tape. Look, Molly is the more skillful swimmer, better at starts, turns, and underwater, and probably has a little bit more speed in the free swim. Ariane, as we've seen, unflappable mentally. We know that she's going to swim fast. She's going to be down around that 154 mark. And basically, Molly O'Callaghan needs to swim the race of her life to beat Ariane, because we know Ariane's going to be here, and Molly needs to essentially probably be at that world record pace to win it.
Extraordinary today. Matildas versus Zambia. Right, they were so disappointing against Germany. And Missile 5-2. Well, they started first. An extraordinary goal from Zambia, and they were expected to just roll through Zambia, but Zambia had two. They got two outstanding strikers. Scored a couple of wonder goals early. 5-2 down, Missile. It's fair to say that the defenders had a night off. Both play because they win 6-5. Right at 5-2. Tony Gustafsson, mate, he's lined up at Centrelink. Mate, honestly,
he would have been.
You're right. It was absolutely extraordinary. 6-5 to the Matildas.
So I guess the positives for Matildas, right? Attack, no dramas. It's on. Defence, they've got a couple of days now to turn it around before they take on the US of A.
Yeah. Steph Catley, best player on the field. 2 assists, 2 goals. Got to beat the US now. That's a big one.
Could they bring in new personnel? Is there anyone missing, or is this is it, right?
I mean, the big person missing, of course, is Sam, but she's not available. But I think he'll just go with what he's got. I think he put his strongest side out. They had to beat Zambia. Tricky game. They got it done. Today, Missile, I'll tell you something, because, I mean, we're talking about the big sports there. We're talking, athletics is going to come up. You think about swimming. I went and saw the beach volleyball, which is developed into a big sport. Went to the street skateboarding. Both of them, I loved it. It was really funny. It was like, it's small. It's like a cauldron in there. Today it was about 32 degrees. It was like an oven. The beach volleyball was outstanding. We saw Brazil up against Egypt. Brazil won that one. And the atmosphere, all the Brazilians in the stadium, it was like the noise was it was fantastic. Someone I want to give a shout out to, right? And the street skateboarding, it's amazing. You turn up, there were 3 young ladies, 14 years of age, right? One of which was, it was young Chloe Cavell.
Yep.
She went in there, and I tell you what, I was blown apart. When you think about street skateboarding, people go, oh yeah. The toughness of those young ladies is extraordinary. The skill level, I mean, the creativity, what they have to do. But, mate, some of the falls today and what they put on the line, like, honestly, it's the sort of punishment that boxers get. And they pick themselves up and just keep going.